Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing today for a Sunday afternoon? I scheduled this about 1 o'clock. Stuff happens. It's been a while. Got a show for you today. I hope you enjoy it. I'm just going to get kind of right into it. Today is Sunday, September 9th, 2019. And just kind of getting revamped up from letting you know where I'm coming from. Reason I hadn't posted for a long time, I've been doing everything that my wife wanted me to do. And so I had to take some time off and not do the things I wanted to do. Mama wants her she shed, and then she wanted the popcorn removed from the ceiling and in the bedroom, and she also wanted the popcorn removed, the acoustical ceiling removed from the living room. And even though I hired that part done, I've still been busy doing other things, getting ready for winter. Okay, so I've been like a squirrel getting ready for winter, not able to do what I wanted to do. And so I haven't been in control of my environment. So wanted to get into it. Well, as the main units copied in segue from Roy at Vinny St. Vincent YouTube channel, and also Scott Russell, made by one man. There's kind of a collaborative synergy going on, and my part in fitting into this open source technology. I love working with nature. That's the reason I'm a sailor. I think it's so cool to be able to sail oceans just on wind power, and it just comes to technical know-how. And of course, I love to go fast too, so I love power, and came from 2 strokes. Love aviation, pilot, flight instructor. Built my own aircraft, designed my own aircraft. So those are whole other stories. But since I was very young, I always wanted electric power. And the reason I like electric power is, number one, it's quiet, and it's fast. And, I was always taught in engineering that you can't get something for nothing, and you really can't. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes energy, and you don't get anything for nothing. You're always working. And I always said, I give so I can get to give again. And that's the reason I enjoy open source. I've worked in many different facets in the corporate world, and always supported our vets, and want to share and impart things that I've been working on. But the reason that I've been doing that is because if you're using gasoline power, whether it's a boat or airplane, basically the design was 4 hours of travel time at 100% power. And then you either had to dock and get fuel, or powerboat, or land and get more fuel for the aircraft. So, everything as far as time in my realm of design has been about 4 hours. Well, when I wrote the specification for the new aircraft I'm designing, it's electric powered, I wanted 6 hours of flight time for landing. And with electric power, one of the things is that you're not messing with turbochargers, you're not messing with naturally aspirated machines. So if I have 180 horsepower on the ground, at altitude, I've got 180 horsepower, and then I can, in the thinner air, and take advantage of that and move on that. So, been working on this technology for a very, very long time. It just doesn't happen. I've been quiet about it, and I've made breakthroughs. And of course, everybody, whether you're talking about, and I'm not trying to name drop anything, but Elon Musk, for one, is the kid on the block. The Japanese are trying to do their things with global energy, what they call new technology. And there's a lot of buzz names out there. One of the buzz words has always been John Bedini. And John Bedini coil. And the what attracted me to the John Bedini style, it was simple, you know, bipolar transistor setup, and the motor that everybody pretty much learned on was known as the schoolgirl motor, and it's exactly what it is. It's a schoolgirl oscillator. It teaches you things. It's one of the basic. I wish I'd have learned how to mess with it, and there's so many spinoffs. But anyway, now that I have time to catch up, I'm getting back to doing what I love to do, and that's developing my batteries, my energy system, management system to put into the aircraft that I've designed. And so, you know, I'm on a set of railroad tracks, you know, I call it the syllabus. But I want to just share with you, I love the Bedini circuit. And so the simplest circuit for the Bedini, that's it right there, okay? And everybody comes up with all kinds of different configurations, and the cool thing is that if you work with the Bedini circuit, you're going to learn about magnetic fields, and you're going to experiment north-south, and learning what AC circuits are and everything. But this is just a piece of a coat hanger. It's plastic coated. Bought it at Walmart, the coat hanger that is, and I cut it to that side, and that's what I've used as my, you know, it's insulated plastic on the outside for the dielectric and a steel rod on the inside. Now, if you take a compass, and I hope I can show this correctly, but if you take a compass and see if it show up, the influence, I don't have any magnetism on this. Well, there is some magnetism. It's being affected by it, okay? But right now, with the black taped in right now, I've got a north, the black end right now is north, and it's sucking the south. And to give you an idea, behind me is south, and in front of me, looking into the camera, is north. So this is backwards. Okay, now if I flip that over, and you can see that that's the south end of the magnet facing north. Okay. Now, the reason I put black tape on there is because the influence of magnets, and when I'm dealing with magnets or a set of magnets or anything, I always put a south end on there, okay? And the reason for that is because I know if I point that south end north, that's actually repulsion. In other words, the magnetic field that I'm experiencing in this environment or this construct that I'm in, we know that as being a south end. Okay, I used to think that was suction, but it's really not. It is if you put it behind you. Okay, and so now this is the north face of the magnet, and as we know, the north side affects the south side. Okay, and then if I flip that over, then that's the northern influence of that spin. Okay, got that? What I wanted to show was just by simply repolarizing this rod. So I can make it by taking that rod and moving it that way. Is it friction or spin or whatever off that magnet? But you know, that was the south end, and and it's still the well, let's see. And it's still the south end because of the way I rub the magnet. But I can change the polarity by going the opposite way. Okay. And now the polarity has changed. I don't know if you can see that, but I can change the polarity on that. One of the interesting things about magnets is when you break a magnet, which if you work around ceramic magnets or whatever kind of magnet, the interesting phenomenon that you're going to run across is that these two halves are on the same magnet on the same plane, and they broke apart, okay? But now they want to repel each other. They were once together, okay? And I call that the bisector, the line of demarcation, the neutral. And if I just by simply turning one of them over, now they attract. If I flip it over, they don't like each other. And if I flip it over, they like each other, okay? In the Bedini motor, we're taught to face all the magnets north, and it really doesn't matter if you're facing the magnet north or south. There probably is a little bit of advantage as far as working with nature in this part of the hemisphere in the construct I live in. I call it a construct respectively because I do believe that this environment, which I'm talking to you from, is a construct. And so there's many things that can be overcome, but I really don't believe ultimately in a north or south. I think it's all the same thing. It's just a different spin, like looking into a mirror, okay? So right now, while I'm broadcasting this, I look like I'm looking into a mirror to myself, but then when I recreate it, then coming from the other side, it looks the way that I really am, but it's like looking into a mirror. Okay, it gets confusing, but it's the same environment, same thing. Magnetics is just, is it spinning to the right or left? And on your perspective, am I looking at it from the top, or am I looking at it from the bottom? Because like in a hurricane, if you look at it from one side, from the sky, it looks like it's rotating counterclockwise. And then if you're looking at it from below, it's spinning counterclockwise, right? Okay. Think about it, because that's the reason on motor shafts, looking at the shaft, it's either turning clockwise or counterclockwise. Same thing, but there's a different perspective in view. So, my question is like when you're doing radar and stuff like that, do they have a mirror in front of it to reflect what it is? Well, if so, well, it's over here, not over there. And so you've got phasing and adjustments that can fool you and play all kinds of tricks. But anyway, with the Bedini, basically it's that very simple circuit, and that's history. One of the great things about all these things is that we're living in the future. I thought it was so cool. I want to show you an old telephone. Okay, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world because it's so small, so compact, fit in your pocket. And now the guys call this, well, you need a pull rope to start that sucker because of what it was. But to me, that was compact, out of the way, boom. And now we've changed over to having basically a handheld computer right there in our hands. And we can do so many things as far as communicating with each other and showing what's going on. So in that vein, if you will, it's kind of like a map, and the map is really pretty simple. There's the old, there's the new, and you're somewhere in that Venn diagram. You're living in the present. It's the same story. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery. Today's a gift. That's why they call it the present. So the old sayings that somehow are renewed, but in my point of magnetism, I've shown several demonstrations, but I worked it out on diagrams, and this is the reason mathematically that this is the same thing that this is. It's just flipped over, and they attract in that way. And then if it flips the other way, then they distract. So magnetism is nothing more than the current led by voltage as far as strength that makes polarity. And so I'm convinced in this construct that they could flip the switch on whatever mass in this construct that does that, flip the polarity, and I don't even know if it really affect the weather and stuff like that. I mean, you hear all these stories, where some of us are truth seekers. Well, what is truth? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, we're all living within these, we call it the onion, but pretty interesting food for thought. So so in other words, the old and new, where are you in this construct? Well, moving on through in my quest for coming up with my motor for airplane, okay, I ran across Floyd's suite, and Floyd's suite created a device called the vacuum triode amplifier, and the main magnet was composed of barium ferrite. Well, barium is a little bit radioactive in a sense, but he constructed a dielectric way to, what I'm trying to explain to you, that there's a demarcation line right here in the center, and that rod can be polarized either way. Okay, and just a matter of which way the current was run through it, voltage leading current, and the strength of that ferrite, it sucks right there to the center. Okay, I could cut this in half, and those two cuts would actually be a field of opposite effect, even though it came off the same piece of metal. Okay, so that's the point that I'm trying to make. Well, Floyd Sweet has came up with a way in his triode to treat a flat piece of barium ferrite to where it had like a bigger circle in it, like a big zero, okay? And in that field was much easily to affect, and you could resonate it and get a lot of power off the treated barium ferrite core. The great thing about all this is electricity really is pretty smart. Electricity is a pretty smart girl. And we're just now really learning as laymen, even though I worked in the field of chemistry and electronics and everything else, we're just now coming to the point of really just getting it down to simplicity. And then we take something simplex and make it complex. But I'm convinced that this construct is really a pretty simple thing. We can make it complicated. We can build simplex devices, and we can build complex devices. So, but the basics is still getting down to the basics of what's going on. And so, referring that back to the Bedini, and I'm going to show you the Floyd Sweet vacuum triode amplifier, a piece of it. But basically, those are the fields that are going on to make a field effect resonator that does work, and prove the fact that it works. Just different ways of going about it. Okay, and so the thing about John Bedini, I guess, to do his work, he sold devices, stuff like that. Yes, I am working on something that I will license out. Okay, it's my technology. I worked on it real hard. If I release it out, yes, on the full technology that I'm working on, yes, I do ultimately want to be paid for. But this is all open source stuff, guys. And people come out saying, okay, I've got a patent for this, I got a patent for that. And, in open source, I'm not trying to change the economy. I'm not trying to put energy companies out of business. I'm not going to be one of these ones that's talking about free energy, because energy is a gift from the construct. Okay, And but I'm not going to get into all the deep conversations that you can have with some people. You know who you are, y'all. The ones that know me, y'all know who I am. So, but there's different ways of going about doing things that we've done. And one of the things that I was sharing this afternoon, phone call situation is, I knew that when I was flight instructing, that my student was ready to solo when I got bored. And what I mean by that, my student learned how to do the different parts of aviation to where they got proficient. And I wasn't nervous at all. I just sit back and go, hey, you got it. I'm relaxed, sitting back and enjoying the ride, looking around. He's in control. He's got it. And he's proven to me over and over and over again that he can do it. I'm bored over here. I say, time for solo. They go, what? You get me out of here? Yeah, you're ready. Here's what we're going to do. And get out the handheld transceiver and say, I'm right there with you, but you're going to hear me in your head. And doing those things, the things that I slapped you around, had to get your attention. Sometimes some guys, they get it 1, 2, 3, and some guys you got to hit them with 2 before, to get it. So, but we all have that experience of being a pioneer, doing something that we've never done before, and leading. So, I'm not a pioneer out there trying to make anything other than my personal goal. Okay, my personal goal is to be successful building this aircraft for myself, and has a 6-hour flight time, and the dependable, and do it over and over again. Ultimately, it'll be a boring thing, so what, but that's for myself. I'm not really trying to give all the secrets of how everything works in it, but I can give you the basics, okay? And through the foundation, the giving people the basics, so they can learn about it, how it works, and as far as I know, I have a right to do that and be proficient and fly my airplane. How it's powered, really none of anybody's business, right? But just want to get that through. We discussed just a little bit about what I call flux modulation, and there's several designs of it, but you always end up with this demarcation line, just like we have here on the same device, and that's what the PMH works at. And so you can look at it at the micro level, you can look at it on a macro level, but there's a pinch zone that happens right there that's vibrating, and that vibration is what we're amplifying in nature to do things, and understanding what's going on, which is Bedini schoolgirl motor basically will teach you if you listen. Okay, so it's kind of like you got to listen to it, but it will do it. It all goes back to, you have to have really special materials to do this. Oh, that's nuclear, or that's hydrogen, or that's this and that. No, there's just plain stuff that you can really build your vacuum triode amplifier with. And once you understand the principle of what's going on, then you can put things together to work with. Some people call it Mother Nature, working with a construct. You can work against a construct, and you can work with a construct. And the construct is pretty neat. Hey, Jason. Hey, buddy. I was thinking of you too. Good to see you. Well, been busy. Had some stuff breaking through the last few days, and so I'm backing up to stuff that I was planning on doing back when I was first going to post live, and going through. But man, with Roy doing his thing with showing the installation, oscillator. Going back to the Model T Ford, that's just been just absolutely incredible. And so as we're pioneering through, because I used to work with buzz boxes and high voltage systems way back in the 60s and 70s, and kind of like everybody else got stuck again doing with semiconductors. And so anyway, that's what this presentation is about, is just getting back to the basics. But I'm glad to see you, and I do want to talk to you on the phone one day, just have some conversation. I had a real good conversation with Roy this morning, and Scott Russell, Made by One Man. We had a three-way conversation that was facilitated by Roy, and some really neat stuff. So, tubes are a big part of it because of the vacuum, and so we can see that energy from the tube. The vacuum, as far as I know, as far as my engineering, has always been a huge part of insulation, and insulation is a dielectric, if you will, and inert gases and stuff. So, Roy's doing great. Yeah, like I said, that was just a unexpected pleasure this morning. About 9:30, it was like being in a time warp when Roy got off the phone, but he left us connected. Scott Russell and I connected, and man, we just I texted Roy back and just thanked him for that unexpected pleasure. So yeah, it's been an unexpected pleasure. But getting back to the VTA vacuum triode unit for my presentation today, Jason, what I'm doing is I wrote out my show notes, and I'm discussing Bedini and the old, new, and present, and where you are. And so that's in the past. And then Floyd Sweet vacuum triode amplifier. You may or may not have missed that. And pentodes. I mean, there's so many configurations that when you come up with it, I mean, that's the great thing about the art, Jason, is that we can get the basics and go right on to the art. The other thing is I kind of gave a thing of where I'm going, and that's with aviation. I've been working on an aircraft motor that's electric motor. And the thing is when I wrote the specification is I wanted to fly for 6 hours instead of 4 hours, and I go in that with the first part of it. So that's where my stuff is, and I'm giving people a background of the VTA, which is the vacuum triode amplifier, and barium ferrite magnets and stuff. And we've all gone with the alternative Bedini configurations and circuits, working with the material. I call it the construct, and I call it the onion, because there's obviously a layer below us and a layer above us, and probably more layers in that onion, where that is as far as understanding and imparting knowledge and stuff. So we're working with, the state of the art. One of the things that was really a breakthrough is when Roy, just simply showed the Bedini just working off an oscillating Model T type configuration. And he's got some more stuff he's going to be doing with that in that vein. And I just think it's awesome. I've been following Roy for a long time, and I was just sitting there. I'd get up and be working on stuff that I was working on, put him on and listen. I go, dadgum, he keeps on. But there's been so many others. I mean, Gerard Morin, I got a lot from him. I mean, golly, I'm gonna when the credits and everything that I've written down to thank people with, and I know you're a part of this too. So it's a open source type movement, and what's going on with that. The motor that I came up with this first time I really showed it online. I'm just going to show you the armature to it, but this is 66 pole commutator, okay, and I wound this to be a constant amp armature, okay. In other words, I've got it designed to handle 10 amps, and this is part of the Mogen, what I call Mogen, but it's Metronomic. And if you listen to the Roy's wheel and stuff, you'll hear that sound, and that's a metronomic sound. The spark gap off the contacts, when it figures that stuff out, it programs the metal to where it has memory, and it automatically knows what to do. And the metal is the suction, but I've learned asymmetrical winding, and I call it metronomic. I turned it metronomic years ago, and if you look back, I'm one of the first ones to coin that for this type. But actually, when I say metronomic, it's asymmetrical. And to me, asymmetrical is like jumping a rope. You know, you're just making one jump, but it's like a spring. Okay. So even though Roy had just one side of this contact, you know, if you notice there was 3 contacts, he got 2, but he does have a third one he's not using on the other side. And so you get into all kinds of circuits that you can do just off basically those 3 contacts that's in that switching. And the main point that I'm doing in this show is the getting people to understand that there's really not a north and a south as far as the magnetic field, other than the coil influence that's retained by ferrous materials. And the one of the demonstrations, and I wasn't planning on showing this demonstration, but well, let's see. Yeah, there you go. 2-foot copper pipe. Okay. And what I did is I took a roll of foil and just rolled it on there. Okay. The experiment that I did with magnets was dropping magnets through, and this is the magnet set that I was dropping. And we call them neodymium or whatever, but really it's ferrous material, okay? But what was, to me, when I dropped my set of magnets through in that polarization, just through the copper, it took 4 seconds. I mean, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, and magnets would fall out. Okay. When I wrapped the top, let's see, count this out. 1, 2, 3, drop. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000. Okay. So just by wrapping that foil around the copper pipe, I got more time on the magnetic resistance. Okay. Is that because of mass? So my next thing is to get a thicker copper pipe. And but also what's neat about it, I can't pull this off because I wound it on there tight, but it's about the same drop time when you just roll foil up, but those together increase it. So I don't know if it's mass by weight that caused that phenomenon. If you know, please let me know. But a lot of smart guys out there figuring that stuff out. So, you know, because basically we're using tin, aluminum, foil, and everything, and working with all kinds of transformers and coils and different configurations. I mean, man, we got so many state-of-the-art things that we're just beginning to understand. But the great thing about this, for the girls and gals that are interested in this technology, being able to find an old contactor set like Roy did, and he demonstrated beautifully and perfectly. Roy St. Vincent, Roy, Benny St. Vincent is his YouTube channel for you those going on. Learning about the layers of magnetic voltage, and but the asymmetrical construct of my basic motor windings is permanent magnet motor. Okay, and the great thing that I've really began to understand, if you have a north-south field that you're opposing every time, you're sucking energy from the system. So if you put two norths together, you're sucking. But the main thing is where that demarcation line is happening, right there in the center. That's what the Bedini is really showing us, okay? And there's different ways to wind the coil, other than winding it this way, coming back, winding it that way, coming back, winding it this way, okay? You can wind it from the center, and then you wind it and you have it on the same plane, but wind in opposite directions. And then you bend that too and have horseshoe magnets and all that. And then to get one half of the spin of the circuit that we know, we can make that 180 degrees hemisphere. And so it's kind of like a bird's beak, if you will. But if you turn a bird's beak upside down, it looks like a heart. So because you do have one side being bigger than the other, and then you can flip that, invert it, and so so many things to learn in that vein. The real point, other than the motor, is control voltage, getting people to understand that you have a voltage side and you have a current side. And voltage leads current, okay? Some will tell you it leads current by 90 degrees, and it does. Some people say voltage leads current by 45 degrees. Guess what? It does. But with Roy's configuration, when I did the math on it in my head, I haven't actually worked it on paper. I was going, man, voltage can lead current in that configuration by 11 degrees, okay, and be in phase voltage. And so that's kind of a huge breakthrough, because that gets us to the asymmetrical jump in the rope with voltage current in that spectrum of channel with the asymmetrical motor design. But what this is leading up to is the dielectric separators. And the dielectric separators is what I'm working with the batteries. Now, I'm not going to show you the battery side of the technology yet, but the word that I want you guys to focus on that I'm working on is what is called the electret. It's Electret, electric. And that's part of the Floyd Sweet vacuum triode amplifier is the electret. Okay, and electret is the bias polarization of one side of your dielectric material, whether it's Lexan, plastic, Teflon. I mean, there's so many dielectrics that can be done through that. So if that's resonating with you, the dielectric or the electret is basically a biased polarized, and that's done through high energy voltage, equivalent of a magnet. Okay, and so you have ferrous materials, and then you have the dielectric or electric side of that equation too. So actually, you're just using one half of the sine wave, okay? And so you don't have the other part of the world sucking that energy away from you, and that's the reason it's possible to run one wire in the coil of a series of mass and put just a tiny bit of DC voltage going the opposite way, and that way you can control where that voltage is instead of just keep on building. You can slow that down just with a very small instructional pulse from DC. And of course, we've all known that, but the common application to do that is what we're doing. So the dielectric separators is where I'm coming from as far as this show, is getting people tuned into the electret, E-L-E-C-T-R-E-T, not electric, but electret, and understanding that that's the electric principle of magnetics. And so we're using asymmetrical, in other words, all north, and you can make the field, depending how you wind the coil, to either attract that, or you can make it to where it sucks away and pushes on by, okay? So you have a choice in which configuration you're using, but it's like a mirror. Sometimes it gets a little confusing because, you know, which end are you looking at? Which way is it facing, okay? And it's just like two sides of a coin, and, you know, you got heads or tails. And so you put those coins in series, you can do a whole lot of communication with, you know, 2 quarters, 3 dimes, and nickel. You know, it's there's all kinds of stuff that you can come up with in configurations as far as possibilities just from that statement alone. So it all becomes down to communication and learning the comms, if you will. So the whole thing that I'm working with is the potentials between the two fields, but in that same basically 180 degree bisector. And then I can take that and do 120 degrees off of that, and I have potential, even though it's more to still switch that in that same plane, one side or the other. And that's what we're doing. We're just, instead of using the whole sine wave, we're just half bridge rectifying that and using that potential, but understanding that you have your high voltage side, which is your series side, and then you have your parallel side. And that's what the bipolar switching between a bifilar coil does. And so if your run battery works very well, if you have 4 run batteries on one side of the equation, they're in series, and you have 4 batteries in parallel, you have your run windings that are running the series, but they're actually charging the ones that are in parallel because of the voltage gain. You know, the very simple, wrongly constructed Bedini on the oscilloscope, I understand it gives 800 volts, actually what its delivery is, and you can prove that by putting a neon light on it. The battery in those 4, the first one on that end is the one, or either end, whichever way you have it configured, but the one on the end is the loser. But you can rotate that back into the flow, and the system will still say charged. And so you have one battery giving a potential, yet it's keeping the other 4 batteries charged. And you've got to find that balance. And this motor works off that principle, except it's a constant amperage motor. The only thing that controls the speed after I change the angle is it's a motor generator. And so that reflection that it's given back, that's where that's coming from. No, no free lunch, no free lunch, but you can run a very long time. And that's the problem is on a full-size aircraft, I'm shooting for 180 horsepower. And horsepower is really simple. It's about 750 watts per horsepower. So at 10 amps, constant amp draw, to get 75 watt, 750 watts, I just need 75 volts, right? Okay. And that goes up. Well, common lead acid batteries work fine to about 26 horsepower. Okay. And after that, they start breaking down. And so I found the battery solution that can handle that return voltage coming back and do it, keeping it cool. So very cool technology. They'll be showing you in the future. I'm about to wrap this up. The potentials from neutral. Just going to talk about the A coil, B coil, and C coil, and the if I where did I have that in my show notes? So that's the common way right there that we generate electricity. Okay, north south, spinning over a coil, and lighting up light bulbs. That's the very simple explanation of how to do that. The building the dielectric is done by heat and then high voltage on the other side of the Lexan or your dielectric, and that holds just like a magnet, a polarized side to one side. Very simple to make. Just coming up with the ways of doing it. One of the things in this technology that I'm sure, Jason, I'm sure you're familiar with it, is the 0 volt switch, 0 volt switching. And also you have 0 amp switching. And so with these technologies, there's some pretty cool things that we can do as far as timing and lose the effect of what's known as Lenz's law and stuff. And any way you slice it, you're still looking at see, when I'm looking at the screen right now, that's all reversed when I'm looking at it. So then you're going to see, when I replay this, I'll see this in the correct order, but see, it's backwards. So that's the mirror. That's one of the things that I'm talking about. But we're using the same equations always, but on the asymmetrical side, we're just skipping a row. And so when you're dealing with coils, you just have to remember that you have parallels, you have different configurations that you can do to have an amperage side of the coil, and you can have voltage side of the coil, and how to reconstitute those without them interfering. Basically, for years, been done through the spark gap, and basically all the modeling that we do, works right off the periodic table, the different materials. So that's the state of the art. We have so many different configurations. It's like, we get excited with each other in the synergy is because we have different goals, but like I said earlier, the schoolgirl motor, which is a motor generator, it's an oscillator. You can do so many things with it, just thinking outside different parameters. But that's what Roy did. Roy shifted a gear for us in his presentation of using contact points just to make a gap in the influence through ferrous material and catching one side of that sine wave, taking DC and pulsing it. And I was very surprised, the Model T, when he was telling me about it, I'd heard about Model Ts, but I never really studied the buzz box in that, how it was wound and everything. And there's some things that right there, they put it in tar. They took molten tar and put it through there, so it was nasty, get on your fingers, dirty. To do one, you had to know, well, I have to dig through that tar. So that's kind of the way it was there as a device. You have to be kind of like a dirty person to tear that solidified tar out of there. And then another side of it, okay, did the tar absorb some kind of energy that we're not too sure about? Okay. I mean, or was it just there to protect it from moisture? All the above, the stories that were told. One of the stories I love to tell is about it's a tribal type situation, but the little girl was asking her mama when she was cooking a pot roast, "Mama, how come you cut the end of that pot roast off?" And the mother said, "I don't know. That's the way my mother did it." And so they went to the grandmother, and she said, "I don't know. That's the way my mother did it." Went to the great-great-grandmother. "Well, I don't know. That's the way that my mom did." Well, it was a family that they were really blessed. And got to the great-great-great-grandmother. That's it. And she said, "Oh, my pot wasn't big enough to hold the whole roast, so I cut it in half." And so in a whole lot of things that we get as far as passed down, they're telling us things and we learn it, but we really don't know why. We're on a new paradigm, working with the A, B, and C coils, and that's where I'm about to wrap up, is capacitance charging. So went through the dielectric and potentials from neutral. So this is what it kind of all boils down to, is it's all switching, okay? And you have A, B potentials, B, C potentials. There's all kinds of potentials that go on in a switching system. And so harnessing those systems is what it all boils down to. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Jason, thank you so much for coming on and being so nice. Like I said, I want to catch up to you. Going with the tubes, getting back to tube theory and stuff. I was in the 70s. I was working with television repair, and so we were transitioning to what was known as hybrid, where it had integrated circuits and tubes in there. And so I did work on and was able to fix a lot of TV sets, but you learn the different sections and follow a diagram. And I did it for a living for a time back in the 70s, and I could fix a broken TV set, but I really didn't understand. It's kind of like, man, I wish I could take what I know now and go back. Well, hindsight's 20/20, so I'm just having to take that. But yeah, we have the opportunity to really drill down, and for people to have a passion for this. When I was working on boats and stuff, they say, "Hey, old guy, I need you to look at this. It's got a twin set of points in it. I have no idea what this is." And even some of the guys, they go, "Hey, it's got a carburetor. What in the world is that?" And I go, "Well, I think that's a carburetor." They go, "What is that?" Well, it's kind of like a fuel injection system, but there's things I understand. Well, how does it work? I don't want to mess with that. You rebuild it. I can understand the stuff. So the construct with the 45-degree angles is pretty simple. So again, thank you. Thank you for your time. Just want to contribute to this open source paradigm that's going on. I hope that I'm giving you something that will can be useful to teach others. my philosophy is I give so I can get to give again. Okay, and taking that and that, and that's what starts the process. Get the process going, and then there's all kinds of places that you can go. Last thing in closing is you can go back in my channel, but for my solar power designs and stuff, this is going to be a big part of that solar technology. What I like about this is, depending on the farad size, at 110 volts, 22 farads equals about 1 amp going through rectification. Charge batteries, and of course the smart chargers can do other things, but with cleaning the plates, which the Bedini motor did, basically it's this technology, and with some refinements, you can charge batteries very quick, and that's the reason they use batteries like the forklifts and other stuff. So there's things right there in plain sight that you got to understand. So I'm doing more than what's a super capacitor. I'm doing more than what's known as just a capacitor. I'm doing more than what's just a battery. But yes, all the principles involved, but I'm doing it in an asymmetrical fashion, and yet bringing it back to something that works, and getting the Q factor in another realm that most people thought was impossible. When you actually see it and you do it and you have it there, it's kind of like, I'm the dog that saw the rainbow, and then since dogs are colorblind, the other dogs couldn't see it. But finally, there's some traction coming on through with other people that they not only saw it, they saw it a long time ago. And connecting with those people is getting to be a blast. So, as I always say, hope you're having fun, because we are, and hope the guys and girls out there that are wanting to get involved with these technologies get on board, learn it, and just have fun with it. Jason, again, my bro, just thank you. You're the one that showed up, and can't wait to talk to you. So you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.